This is your daily dose of all things royal.
Apparently, President Trump says he thinks that he might deport Harry if he becomes president.
What can I say? I mean, I didn't hear that, but...
It's not going to happen, though, is it?
Well, it's not going to happen in the Biden administration.
There we are.
Welcome back, my gorgeous, good-looking friends. A couple days ago, I posted a video regarding the update to Prince Harry's visa case, in which the Heritage Foundation had submitted a supplemental indicating that this engagement between the U.S. ambassador to the U.K. with Sky News alluded to impropriety with the Biden administration concerning Harry's visa. Well, the Biden administration didn't like that very much and had their lawyers clap back in a response to the Heritage Foundation supplemental. And here's what they said. Plaintiffs argue that Jane Hartley, U.S. ambassador to the Court of St. James, revealed information about the Duke's immigration status during an interview with Sky News. But Hartley's comment was simply a reaction to former President Donald Trump suggesting that if he is elected to the presidency again, he would consider deporting the Duke. Contrary to plaintiffs' representations, Hartley's comments did not reveal any non-public information regarding the Duke's status, and Hartley did not state that the Duke would not be deported regardless of future circumstances. If anything, Hartley's comment that the Duke would not be deported under the Biden administration is consistent the position that defendant has taken in this litigation, namely that the Duke's admission to and residence in the United States suggests no government impropriety.
Apparently, President Trump says he thinks that he might deport Harry if he becomes president.
What can I say? I mean, I didn't hear that, but...
It's not going to happen, though, is it?
Well, it's not going to happen in the Biden administration.
There we are. It's not going to happen, though, is it?
Well, it's not going to happen in the Biden administration.
There we are.
I don't know. I think we have to challenge this. I don't agree with what DHS is saying here, as they specifically state that Hartley did not state that the Duke would not be deported regardless of future circumstances. No, she didn't say those words specifically, but she did say that it's not going to happen in the Biden administration. So we are talking about the next couple of months. And if, God forbid, Biden gets elected again, he's not going to get deported in the next term. So yeah, they are talking about future circumstances. So I'm not really sure where the breakdown is, because that sounded very much as, yeah, under the Biden administration, Harry's not going to be deported. You can argue that the U.S. diplomat is saying, well, it doesn't matter what he put on his application form, because under the Biden administration, Harry's not going anywhere and he can't be touched. So when they talk about there's no government impropriety, I disagree, because how could she make a blanket statement like that if under this administration nothing's going to happen to him? Let's say if tomorrow they turn around and say, yeah, he lied. If we go by what the diplomat is saying, it's, yeah, so what if he lied? Under the Biden administration, he's not going anywhere. And another thing I'd like to point out here is the inaccuracy, or I want to say the twisting of the words in the sentence that says, but Hartley's comment was simply a reaction to former President Donald Trump suggesting that if he is elected to the presidency again, he would consider deporting the Duke. That was not what President Trump had said. If, let's say, they do find that he lied on his application, Trump was in an agreement that whatever measures or per the rules need to be taken should be applied to him, essentially. And that would happen under his presidency. This was not saying, well, if he gets into office, then he's automatically going to deport Prince Harry. No, this is about following the rules and making sure that the government did not give special privileges to this prince.
If he's lied on his visa form, doesn't the truth need to come out?
We'll have
I mean, should he get special privileges that nobody else does?
No, and we'll have to see if they know something about the drugs, and if he lied, they'll have to take appropriate action.
Appropriate action?
Yeah.
Which might mean not staying in
I
America.
don't know. You'll have to tell me. You just have to tell me.
So now we have a problem with this statement. If anything, Hartley's comment that the Duke would not be deported under the Biden administration is consistent the position that defendant has taken in this litigation, namely that the Duke's admission to and residence in the United States suggests no government impropriety. Well, hold on a second. this is a bit of a problem because if you see in the green where it says the Duke first took up residence in the United States in March 2020 when Trump was still president. So once again, here is where Harry's lies start unfolding. So what you see in the green actually came from the Heritage Foundation's filing in which they said that Harry took up residence in the United States in March of 2020. And that was based off of what was said in the Spare book, as well as in the Netflix mockumentary, as well as in various puff pieces of Meghan and Harry having to flee for their lives to the United States because the UK was so racist, right? So now follow me here. If Prince Harry took up residency in March of 2020, why wasn't that reflected on the travelers documents that we saw last week where it stated that his residency changed to June 29, 2023? Do you see where there's inconsistencies and holes in the story? This is why we need to know what was submitted in this application, if there was an application filled out, assuming that they presented something to some people about his crossing the border into the United States, perhaps maybe now illegally, allegedly. We have a situation to where there is a cover-up going on. And just because they are now deflecting, saying that the U.S. ambassador had been consistent with the defendant's stance that there was no government impropriety, well, here we go, folks. This is impropriety staring in our faces because Harry's only now claiming residency in 2023. What was he doing for the last 3 years? This now just opens up a whole new can of worms. Like, was he here on a visitor's visa? Was he here on a work visa? Was he here on a diplomat visa? I mean, he did admit to doing all the drugs. I mean, we can't forget about that admission because he should have never been allowed in the country in the first place unless he sought a waiver. And this is a point that the Heritage Foundation makes in saying, well, if Harry did tell the truth that he did do drugs, then he would have had to have filed this waiver and get approvals. Now, I'm sure there could have been an expedite process, but not in the time that they claim that they fled in the middle of the night to the United States after being discovered by the paparazzi because they had no intention, wink, wink, on moving to the United States, which the likelihood of Prince Harry lying is a possibility, but even more of a possibility that the question wasn't even asked of Prince Harry because he filled out no paperwork because he was on his diplomat or using his whatever special card that he uses when he goes off and travels when he was a working royal as a representative of the crown. I keep saying that we're not being told the full story. So if you go back to the court case and the judgment that was passed down back in, I want to say February 2024 about Harry's security, their newly hired private secretary as of August 2019 was in charge of handling the security negotiations during Megxit and the Sandringham Summit. Fiona's extensive background in diplomacy as a foreign ambassador came in handy when it came time to discuss and negotiate surrounding security and the protection that these two were going to get. Correspondence, as this court case shows, that Fiona had been working with the UK government as well as the palace all the way up until March of 2020. Fiona most definitely had an idea as to what this couple were planning to do and where they were planning to go, because in this court case, it shows that they had every intention to figure out how to protect this couple, not only in Canada, but also while in the United States, as you can see here. As it says here from the court case, on the 20th of February, A wrote to the claimant, meaning Prince Harry, to say that, working with Fiona, I am aware of the high-level policy discussions that have occurred, but do not work at a level where I can directly influence outcomes. What A had been doing on Prince Harry's behalf was scoping what best-in-class commercial security provision is available in Canada and the U.S. And right there, folks, they had been talking about their options in the U.S., so they had to have had some idea that they were coming over to the United States. And being that Fiona is this former ambassador, she had an idea as to how our DSS services work. And as you can see in the last sentence in pink, Ms. McElwin attached for illustrative rather than exhaustive purposes a list, blank, 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 involving the claim. And as you can see in pink at the very end here, it says Ms. McElwin attached for illustrative rather than exhaustive purposes a list of what Prince Harry and Meghan would need surrounding their protection, which most likely included protection in the United States being covered by the Vienna Convention of Protective Services. So it's a reason why we don't hear Prince Harry go on and on about being protected here in the United States, even though here is where people can walk around with guns. You follow me? So I am calling it out right now that Fiona McElwim most definitely helped Prince Harry with his application in order to cross the border in some way or some form, because she had been responsible for getting all the security arrangements together. So if I were the Heritage Foundation and they moved this case forward, I think it would be best to call her, to question her about what role she played in their Megxit and them fleeing in the middle of the night to the United States seeking refuge. I mean, that's where I would go. Now, this does muddy the waters for this travel list document that was updated to reflect Harry changing his residence as of June 29, 2023, versus what DHS and Heritage have in this court case of reflecting Harry took residence here in March of 2020. See what I mean? Now, if Harry was just a regular person like you and I, you better believe Companies House would probably come down on him. But because he's the king's son, it almost appears that he can get away with possibly doing anything he wants. So my guess is that if he lied on this travelers form, it's not going to matter. Companies House is not going to go after him. But what I do hope happens is that this does open this court case up for a bigger discussion, because I think, once again, I'm reiterating, this is my opinion, that Harry and Meghan lied about when they came over to the United States. And the story that we were fed has a good possibility that it's not accurate. And if that domino falls, then the rest of the dominoes are going to fall, meaning it's going to debunk and refute the story for Oprah, their Netflix mockumentary, the Spare Book. Everything will collapse, which is what I'm predicting. Listen to what Richard Eden had to say on Palace Confidential about this situation.
Richard, you have written about a change in situation to Prince Harry that could have a bigger impact than people realise.
This is really interesting. It relates to the company we were talking about a moment ago, Travelist, and Prince Harry has updated his details with Companies House in Britain, because you have to give your home, your place of residence. And he has finally said that he is now resident in the USA. It's taken him 4 years since they quit Britain. He always said, you know, Britain will always be my home, and it's clearly not now. And, you know, there are all sorts of implications from this. Remember, we've got that case that we've discussed on this programme quite a lot about Harry's immigration status, what he wrote on his forms. It's the subject of a case at the moment with the Heritage Foundation, a think tank that wants to know what did he write. They want to be able to show, you know, what did he say about that past drug use. And then there's other questions about his future roles as well.
Is it, residency doesn't really have any bearing on citizenship, right? No.
And that's the point that I was trying to make in my previous video about domicile versus residence. Harry is still domiciled in the UK, which means he's still in the line of succession and still Counselor of State, which means he's still seen as a government head here in the United States.
But I think what's really interesting is that date he gave was backdated to the day that King Charles threw him out of Frogmore.
But that's not true, though. As I stated in my previous video, the actual notice or announcement that they've been evicted happened in March of 2023. As you can see here on this timeline from St. Meghan Markle, that on January 11, 2023, the eviction process had started. And this was like right after Spare. So then on March 2023, I think the 1st of March, it was announced that Harry and Meghan were being kicked out. So this date that was listed on 6/29/2023, I think doesn't have anything to do with Prince Harry making this bold statement to the king that he's cut his relationship off with the UK. I think it has everything to do with this visa situation. I don't know exactly what, but I do think that it has something to do on the back end of some narrative that they're trying to come up with. Just my opinion.
Natasha, do you think it's got anything to do with the developments in the court case over Harry's US visa?
Well,
Either way, whatever happens with this situation, it's a bit difficult for him. So yes, maybe he would be keen to come back to the UK and try and win people over, because what's happening with that is this week a US judge has received the files. He's basically deciding whether or not to make them public. And this is all about whether or not Prince Harry said on his US visa application form if he'd taken drugs or not, which in his book Spare, he obviously spoke about in great detail. It's a bit messy, really.
I think what people don't understand is the reason why Heritage Foundation is doing this. We look at Prince Harry as this privileged, spoiled prince who most likely is going to be protected. They know that, but the whole point of this exercise is to show that the Biden administration, particularly DHS under Mayorkas, is so badly broken, and the current policies that are being enforced or lack of policies being enforced is causing the destruction of this country from within. And for whatever reason, it's clearly intentional. The reason why they're going forward with this case, as I say here from the transcript that was dated back on 6/16/2023, in the court files, it says that by Heritage saying, this is part of a broader examination by Heritage of DHS's conduct. Heritage conducts research on issues as to whether DHS is complying with the law. Heritage conducts investigations on those issues. There are 3 other cases on your honor's docket dealing with FOIA requests as to DHS specifically. I think one of the motivators here is because Prince Harry is high profile and it's going to get attention, which is proving to be true. To me, I think that's a good thing. So I don't mind my tax dollars being wasted by DHS to fight this case because all of this has to come out.
I think we certainly Americans deserve to know, because at the moment there's this suspicion that, there's one rule for the rich and famous and another for others.
No, surely not.
We
Surely
know
not.
how strict these questions are and how difficult it is, to obtain visas to enter America. So I think it's people deserve to know.
It's not going to happen, though, is it?
Well, it's not going to happen in the Biden administration.
There we are.
I don't know. What do you guys think? Definitely leave your thoughts below. As always, I will be back with more content. But until then, please be safe, and I will talk to you later. Bye.
You're such a fraud.